How are you party animals? So we're back to our tutorial, and the first thing I want to do obviously is git add all and git commit with the message prepare Excel headers for uploaded file. I don't know, that should be descriptive enough. Okay, now so let's start with a small change. I made a small mistake here saying that we should continue if we find M3 in the header. The fact is that if there is M3 in the header, so let's go to 2014 format. So if we have this in here, we are actually looking at the header for air pollution level. So we actually want to keep this this header here because we want to extract the pollution level from here, and the units we just take it once off. So the small change that we have to do here, so basically what happens here, this bit takes care of saving the units from here. So instead of stopping here, instead of cutting off this for loop with continue and going back to the loop, I'm going to delete this line, because after saving this unit here, I wanted to save the mapping as well. I wanted to save that this is the air pollution level header in this column. Okay, another problem that we might have in here, and I did test it so I know that this would be a problem, is the fact that although I checked 2014 that it works very well in here, so we iterate, we can use this max column property to iterate through all the columns. So then we get all the headers and we never hit the empty space, which means this value is never none. But I then checked 2015 file, and for some reason it goes through and it gets to this point, and then this line gives me an error because you can't replace none, you can't strip, you can't replace, and you can't lower a none type. And if it's not a string, then it gives you an error. So we need to make sure that we're looking at the, well, basically we need to make sure that if we're looking at the none type, if the cell is empty, it means we finished looking at the headers and now we are ready to break. So let's do if header is none, and then we want to break if it's none. Okay, so we don't want to go through any more columns because we found all the headers and we're ready to break. Okay, so now we are ready to actually go and start working on our save to database function. So in upload file, we want to go through. So here we are checking the validation of the form. In here, we're going through all the sheets in the Excel file. And after getting the rows, the headers row, the headers mapping and units, now we are ready to go through all the rows in that file, in that sheet, and save all those entries to database. So we're going to go through all those entries here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, thousands of them, and save them in our database. So let's start here. I'm going to put a short comment here saying save all entries to database. Okay, and so now, as we did before, I'm going to use bulk create. So for that, I need an empty list where I save all the pollution entry objects, which then I bulk create using bulk create function provided by Django. So in here we start the for loop. And I'm going to go with this, I and row in enumerate, and we're enumerating ws.rows. Okay, and why do I need this I? And by the ws rows. So why do I need this I, and what is this enumerate? So I is an index of the for loop. So we start with 0 and go 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on, as long as the for loop works. Enumerate is basically an encapsulation function that takes in a list or even a list generator, and it tells you not only what is the item, each item of this list or generator, but also it tells you which item it is. And we need that because we need to skip all the elements here. So we want to start from this line. So what we have to say is, we have to be able to say, let's go here, if I is less or equal to headers row, then continue. So basically, as we go through the sheet, this one continue, don't do anything, don't do anything, don't do, and then this don't do anything, and then okay, this is not lesser or equal to the headers row. We can start saving from this line. So in here we just skipped all the lines. I can even put a comment here. So put 2 spaces and skip to actual entries. Okay, and now we can start getting the data from each row. So first thing I think we need to get is country. And the reason is that because it needs a bit of thinking here. We need to allow the program to make a decision if we're looking for the country by its ISO code, or we're using the name. We stored each country using both. So if we have Turkey, we are able to find Turkey, and if we have the ISO code, we are able to find the AT, which is I think Austria, using this code. So let's go here, and country is, so this is where the headers, get headers and units function is coming in. So we found the headers row, we use it here. Now we need the mapping to get the country from the row, because we're going through the worksheet row by row, and we need to know where is the country, where is all the data. So to get the country, all I have to do is get the row, and I need to put an index here, 0, 1, 2, 3, depending where my country data is residing. And I started this way. In headers dictionary, I need to find, and I actually need to import it here. So from helpers, I need to import Excel headers, and that's this enumerator class that I used for making my life easier. Because instead of putting those strings by remembering them and putting them every time the same way, and in case I want to change one, I'll have to change every single one across my code. In this case, I can just use the kind of just class variables that then I can change the contents of. So, but in here, I need the Excel headers dot country, and that's going to go to here, and it's going to go to that class, and it's going to check what's inside. And I'm looking for the country header. Okay. And from that row, as before, so I selected the cell, and it's a special cell object, and I need to take value of that object. And now one thing is, if country is none, then obviously we have to finish, because that means we got all the way to the very bottom. And for some reason, Openpyxl doesn't know that we are looking at an empty row, and it might be just going, not knowing that there's no data to process. Makes no sense. We know that every entry has its country. If it doesn't have its country, then it's a problem of data. We can assume that every entry has its country. So if it's empty, if it's none, then we go to here and we say break. Okay. So this way we make sure we are not just going through the empty entries. But then, okay, so we have 2 options. We either imported the 2014 data set, and it stores countries by its ISO code, or we have 2016 format and we have the names. So I think the easiest way to see the difference between them is this one is always 2 characters long, always. That's the ISO code, that's the ISO standard. And here they are always more than 2 characters. I think the shortest is, I don't know, maybe 5. Italy is pretty short, but it's not going to be 2 anyway. UK is United Kingdom or something. So it's impossible for this one to be 2 letters long, and this one is always 2 letters long. So I'm going to use this information to do this. If length of country is bigger than 2, so if we're looking at the name of the country object, and we need to extract it so we can save it with our pollution entry, country object is this, and we need to, okay, I think it's already imported. So country objects filter by name, which is country, because we know in here we stored the name of the country, and we want to get the first shot, which is the only shot. Should be unique, so but that's the way to get either first element, and it's going to give you none if it wasn't found. But we did save all the countries before, and we shouldn't have any problem with this approach. So we get this first, which is the only country object from our database. Otherwise, so if we actually are looking at just 2 characters long country, which is the ISO code, then we do this. Country object is country.objects.get, and we're using ISO code is country. Okay, let's make sure that this is the correct country ISO code. Okay, so and because it's a primary key, I can use something like get. Okay, get is, oh sorry, so I think I can just say pk, which is primary key. So get using primary key country. Okay, so that's done. And the one thing that is important to mention here is that if you do in Python an if statement that goes if else, and there's not elif in here, so we are 100% sure that this country object does exist outside of this if statement, then we don't have to initialize it before. We don't have to do something like, I don't know, because in some languages you might have to do it, because then this is the scope. The country object would stay inside of this if statement scope, but Python is pretty flexible in this way. So if you make sure that this variable is created 100%, so this is 50%, this is 50%, yeah, so it's either this or this, but there's no way it just skips it altogether, then you can use it outside of this if statement, just so you know. Okay, but anyway, another kind of thing that I figured out when I was writing this code before and I was testing it, I noticed that some data is missing. So as you can see here, the cities, sorry, that's not a city, that's a station name. So sometimes the station name is missing. For now, it's pretty consistent, but here we have some gaps. And it was the same with the city, and it's the same with the station area. So we need to figure out what to do when this is none, because we can't save it as none. I did in my database, if you remember, if we go to pollutant entry, city is not nullable. So basically what I have to do is make sure that we pass something like at least an empty string instead of a non value. But what we can do is it's pretty easy, and this is how I would approach it. City, so I'm just follow this and you'll see what I mean. As you remember, we go to the row and then we go to headers to get the index, and then we go to xl headers.city. Okay, and that's the way we get our index of the city column in this row, and then we just get value, and sometimes it will be none, and you'll see why I'm single these out. Station name is the same, so I can just copy this and change only this name, station name, and station area. Okay, that's done. Okay, so these 3 are the troublemakers. The rest I can just use straight up. So just okay, keep following me. Data, and I want to create a dictionary here, which is and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a quick shortcut here. I want to populate all those fields, right? So what I can do is I can actually just copy them. So I'm going to select them all using option. As you might remember from the last video, you can select multiple elements like this. So I'm going to select them all up to altitude and copy. So just Command C, and in here I'm going to just paste them. And again, I'm going to select them all. And now just hit quotation mark, right, colon, space, 2 quotation marks and comma. Okay, so I built this boilerplate for me where I'm going to put in all the fields into a data dictionary that then I'm going to use for making my pollution entry object. So stay with me. This is going to be pollutant. And because we are using, as you might remember, pollutant is this pollutant class dot objects that get or create using the pollutant name that we got from the Excel file. So what I'm doing here, I'm trying to get or create something, and this function returns two things. One is the pollutant object that we either get from the database because it exists, or we create. So if we get, that means we get also false because we didn't create it. And if we have to create it, then we get true. So the first element of the return value here is the object itself, and the second is the true or false, depending if we created true or got false. Okay, this is, so that's why I need to put a 0 in here, so we get the first element from this list of return values. Country, we can use the country object that we calculated before. The year, okay, so we never actually got the year. I'm gonna just put it in here. Here is form.clean data of year. And again, year because I named it in HTML year. Okay, so we can put year in here. Now city, and this is what I do when I don't know if it's, if I want to make sure this is no, we never pass a non-value in here. I'm gonna pass city if city, if city, because if it's none, then this statement is false. None is like false. If city, else empty string. You see, I did it in one line. So you either pass city only if city exists, if it's not none, otherwise an empty string. In here, we can just pass something that always exists. So we go row and headers and XL headers and code. Okay, and value. That always exists, and I can just paste it like this. I can pass it like this, sorry. The name, sorry, so the name will be station name. If station name, else empty strings. Pollution level always exists, so I'm going to just paste it here and do level. And you can see how helpful is using this enumerator. I just type level. I remember it was something about level, and PyCharm is telling me, okay, I found something that has level in it. Are you looking for this variable? And yes, I am. Units, and that's going to be the units that we got from the get headers and units function in here. Station type, so that's going to be this. We just change this to type. Yep. Area, again, that's the troublemaker, so we had to single it out. Station area, if station area, else nothing. And by the way, I could do this. I could do just area, if area, else this, but you can see that we got too far and we are getting non-Pythonic code, and we would have to do something like this. And to be honest, it gets messy. I prefer to put it in here and then use it like this. Station name, if station name. So it's just cleaner that way. But you do whatever you want. Station area, else empty string. And in here, I can just put in longitude, latitude, and altitude. Oop. Altitude. Okay. So now we're ready to append our pollution entry object to insert list, which I created here for storing all the elements for each sheet. So after creating a data dictionary, I can do this. To insert append pollution, and I need to import it. Pollutant entry. Pollutant entry. And I'm going to create a pollutant entry using data. So what I'm doing here, I'm unwrapping this data into pollutant entry, which basically does something like this. Pollutant entry, and starting with pollutant, it does something like this. Pollutant equals pollutant 0, comma. Country is country object, and so on. So it goes through all the elements inside of that data dictionary, and it unwraps it this way, and so on. So comma and da 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 da. But because you can see I was doing some operations here, I prefer to build it as a dictionary first and then pass it this way. So I'm going to just delete this here, and we appended it to the insert list. And now I think the next step would be actually saving it. So two things have to happen. So we need to be outside of the this for loop. So on the same level here, yep, we want to do two things. Pollutant entry objects dot filter, and I want to delete all the entries that are for this sheet and this year. So year is year, and pollutant is pollutant 0. Okay, so we want to make sure that when we save each of these sheets, we don't double the data. We have a data set for 2014 and for each pollutant. When we upload it twice or 3 times or so on, and for some reason we re-upload the same data, we don't want to have the duplicates. We want to make sure that whatever was there for the same year and the same pollutant is gone. And that's just approach here. Obviously, you might want to be more careful, but for now we're gonna just do this. And obviously, after getting this query, we need to delete it. So using this approach, we delete all the entries for pollutant entry from this year and in this using this pollutant. And the last thing, we want to save our pollutant entry dot objects dot bulk create using to insert list. So all the pollutant entry objects in the list to insert, we put that in here, and boom, we save them all, we bulk create them. And the last thing I want to do, just quickly before we start testing it, I want to copy this context, because depending on the request method, it's either post, and we do want to do all this crazy processing. But if it's not a post method, so I'm going to put a comment here because it's a pretty long if statement. Request method not post. And if that's true, I want to change the context, like I want to put a different context here and different context here. So I'm going to delete this. And if we are in the post method, file uploaded successfully, obviously if we did upload it successfully, and in here we just want to say this view only accepts post method, and this. Okay, and that should work. And let's go to our website, portfolio, air pollution, and let's upload the 2014 dataset. It's going to take a while now because it's a pretty big file. Let's hope it doesn't crash on us. File uploaded successfully. Okay, so this one did work, and let's go to 2015, or maybe let me just go back again, because this I want to make sure I can see the feedback, and the feedback was there already. So we might change that in the future. When you hit the upload file, we might get rid of it, but for now it doesn't work. So I'm going to just refresh. And again, we're waiting for 2015. Might take a second. 2014 worked. There could be some inconsistencies here and there. So, but 2015 did work as well. And let's see if 2016 works, and it's a different format. 2016. I think 2016 was the biggest. I think there's like 10,000 entries there. Cool. Okay, so it all went through. So our code is working well. By the way, we can test this as well. So if I hit enter now, see the message is this view only accepts post methods, which means we have to use it through the form. Okay, so let's have a look in here and go to pollutant entries. And now I can see a lot of entries here. 25,000 entries from our 3 Excel files, which seems to be about right. This is what we were looking for, and if we open those entries, they all have all the information. So there's a pollutant here, there's country here, there's a country here, year, city, blah blah blah, pollution level, that's 0 for this one. And if I go back and let's go into the last one, 2014 entries, this one has some pollution level, so it works. There's the units, blah blah blah, so it's all in here. And now we can start making some aggregations and come up with some ideas how to use that data now that we have it on our database. 25,000 entries, that's pretty cool amount of information to play with. Okay, so I think I'm gonna stop here, and in the next video we can start doing something with this data. Okay, thanks for watching and see you in the next one. Bye bye.